What's up, gamers? This is Yuban with a Mechabellum replay commentary. Today we are going to showcase another Fang Carry game, and we're going to also show how we transition out of it when our opponent decided to go for the perfect counter against our Fang Carry. Looking at these starting packs, I decided to go for the quick supply with Fangs and Steel Balls, thinking that, what the heck, it's been a while since we last played Carry Fangs, and our opponent is somebody whom we play against often, and he kind of knows our playstyle. So maybe let's try something different. Let's try to throw him off his guard by going for this unconventional build. Our opponent went for the Giant Spec, arguably one of the best specialists in the current meta, as Giants are just so powerful. And he is a 2200 MMR player. We decided to go for the quick supply for the Fang Carry because the extra 200 supply allow us to get a early range enhancement on round 2. If we had sold the Steel Balls on round 1, we could have even gotten the range enhancement without losing any deployments. However, here we decided we like having the Steel Balls going into our opponent's Tarantula. So let's keep them, and maybe they can get some levels to just kind of be our frontline tank for the early game. And from here, went for one corner crawler, a shield for any kind of missile attempt down the road, and then going for one Fang vertical behind the tower to stall this push, or a potential push, and to guard our deep flank. Okay, let's see how our board is going to deal against our opponent's Tarantula Void Eye opening. It would be ideal if our Steel Balls can find a way to lock onto the Tarantulas. This looks promising here. No, as we get a less favorable tower debuff, our frontline Steel Balls get cleaned up. And from there, our Fangs without any range are just going to walk straight to their death. But that's okay. We know that about the Fang Carry build. We need a few rounds to get things going. Going into round 2, I thought about getting the Assault Raiden card and make these Raidens as our frontline tank for the Fangs. I think that would be a very fun build one day. However, for now, we're just kind of thinking, do we want to go for Sandworms for our frontline tank, or do we just skip and maximize our money? So both of us skipping. I thought our opponent should have gone for maybe like a mass-produced Worms or even the Assault Raiden, given that he is Giant Spec. Especially because our Fangs don't run Ignite, so if they can put down a Assault Raiden in the front, that's going to be a very, very tanky boy. For now, we triple deployed Fangs, giving them range enhancement, going for the deep flank. We talked about this setup before in our previous Carry Fang game. We want to pressure the tower, and we want to focus our power on one side. And that's exactly why we decided to put 2 packs of Fangs in the flank, putting them around 4 squares in between each other for the later on fortress to live on. Let's see if our opponent's newly added Vulcan can take down our Steel Balls. And if they do, it's going to have no problem taking down our Fangs in the backline. Seems like with a favorable Steel Ball lock-on, we're able to take down our opponent's level 1 Vulcan in the process. And now with the range enhancement, we should actually be slightly favored into our opponent's board, as he's left with 1 Tarantula for chaff clear, and with this tower debuff, our Fangs are going to feast on the remaining of this army and acquire some nice experience in the process. Nice. Striking back. Going into round 3. Amplifying Core could be nice on a Fang for some extra damage. However, being round 3, a little too expensive for my taste. So we decided to go for the Underground Threat. Trying to pull our opponent's chaff units back a little bit and try to go for a potential early tower debuff to once again allow these unlikely units to beat the Vulcans. Normally, you expect the Fangs to just melt away. With our supply going into round 3 and only deploying Fangs, we decided to go for the AP Bullet as our second tech, allowing these guys to clear the crawlers a lot faster and actually increase our potential to take down our opponent's Vulcan. Opponent sold out of his second Tarantula and decided to transition his defense entirely onto our pushing side, and actually went for a very early round 3 oil to light our board on fire and destroy all of our Fangs in the process. And you see here, all of our deep flank Fangs just melt away in an instant. That is a sad sight. Very, very sad as a Fang player. However, you can see here, the power of the AP Bullet, we're actually able to defend the weak side tower. And with a tower debuff, can we even take down this Vulcan? Look at this. Hero Steel Ball, level 2, with 1 HP left, taking down our opponent's Vulcan during the tower debuff. This is why we go for the Fangs everywhere, because it's how cheap and they are to deploy, and they require a lot of work for our opponent. So one pack of Crawler is no longer going to be sufficient in dealing against the Fangs once they have double tech. So we end up saving ourselves 400 HP by taking down the Vulcan, and that takes us into the round 4 unit reinforcement. Now here we could have gone for Fortress or the Sandworm. Sandworm with armor can deal very well against our Vulcan. However, fearing our opponent also picking the Fortress from the unit drop, we decided to go for the safest option in the form of our level 1 Fortress, and just so happened that by selling out of our 300 supply steel balls, our money lined up to getting one more Fortress with a barrier tech right on round 4. Now, with this tech online, this early in the game, we are feeling pretty dang good, as it's going to help us. It's going to be very difficult for our opponents to break through the shields. And from here, we favored deployment once again. I would have loved to loaned to get a level on this pack of Fangs so they can continue to scale out of control. However, given that we only had 100 more supplies for one more pack of Fangs, we decided to just go for prioritize our deployment. You can see the power of the Fortress right away here. By putting it slightly in front of our Fangs, our opponent's Vulcan immediately locked onto the Fortress, allowing our 3 packs of Fangs to make fairly quick work of our opponent's Vulcan on the side here. And with the other Vulcan also locking onto the Fortress, seems like our Fangs are going to have a fantastic time taking down the tower, taking down the Vulcan, and help us chaff clear all in one go. And just like that, with a lucky unit drop, and we learned from our mistake in the last game against Dillo, we decided the Fortress transition immediately turned out to be a very favorable one. Going into round 5, Steel Ball production line, while you play giant units, is just a S tier item, as it continues to produce steel balls every 16 seconds, and there is no cap on how many you can produce. So the longer the round goes on, the more balls we get, the more values we get. However, it was a tough one, given that shield airdrop could have allowed us to protect this corner of our army from any kind of future oil or smoke bomb. However, having this S tier item, we just couldn't pass it on. Opponent decided to go for a skip, even though the steel ball production would fit onto the Vulcan. And now I see why. He decided to go for the early Abyss counter, positioning the Abyss forward so it targets the Vulcan immediately. And by skipping and loaning, our opponent allowed himself to grab the swarm missile tech as well. This tech is going to destroy every single one of our fangs without the Abyss even ever locking onto the units. It's just such a crazy targeting system. Look at this. Nowhere near the Abyss, yet 3 packs of fangs gone in an instant. Luckily, we still have our frontline fortress and the newly added corner fortress now with steel ball production. Let's hope our steel balls can grab us a nice tower debuff timing, maybe allowing us to take down our opponent's Abyss. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Just like the steel ball production item, the longer the round goes on, the more value our opponent gets from the swarm missile. And each time it fires, it doesn't really matter which units in the way. It's just going to target and take down these light chaff units in the process. So at least we were able to take down our opponent's Vulcans in the process. Round 6, unit reinforcement. Sabertooth, no good. Tarantula, no good. Fire Badger, maybe, but opponent does have Abyss, and the Fire Badgers can just get deleted very quickly in one swipe. So we don't need any chaff clear because we got Fangs. So we decided to go for the Farseer in the process. Selling one, keeping one, and decided to go transition into a melting point right away. Grabbing the range tech, allowing us to instant lock onto our opponent's Abyss. And here we should probably be anticipating some kind of chaff in the front, maybe put down a missile or two to help us target onto this Abyss. Anticipating our opponent is going to put down another Abyss probably in the middle or most likely on the weak side, we decided to drop our Farseer to maybe support with killing the Abyss a little bit. In hindsight, we should be putting this unit far back here to protect our deep flank, recognizing that if our opponent had gone for the Tarantula or the Farseer drop and go for the deep flank here, we would be in a world of trouble. Okay, let's see if we can chaff clear fast enough. Ah, look at this. Because these Fangs move so dang slowly, we're not able to clear the front line pack of Fangs. Are we ever even gonna be able to target onto... Oh, okay, lucky. We're able to target onto the Abyss. And this is going to help us take down this level 2 tanky boy. And all at the same time, even though we got tower debuffed, our fortress is still doing a fantastic job protecting our backline Fangs. And with this kind of board left on the board, we should be able to target onto this Abyss with our melting point. And that's going to grant us a very fortunate round win, despite our opponent going for a nice tower debuff attempt. Round 7, we immediately went for the laser sights, recognizing that we need to target onto the Abyss as soon as we can. So any kind of extra range is going to be very helpful. Opponent recognized that his Abyss is very far forward, right within the range of our melting point. Went for a very nice beacon play, putting it back out of our melting point's range of target. So this is going to prevent any kind of early targeting. Recognizing that we need to now start to transition out of our fortress and go into more of a melting point approach, we decided to go for one more melting point after selling out of our Farseer and decided to go for the energy absorption tech. This is going to ensure our survivability against our Abyss, especially once we can lock onto either a Vulcan or a Abyss. Our melting points are going to survive over a few sweeps of the Abyss laser. Our opponent went for a third Abyss right in the center, recognizing that this group of Vulcan and Fang combo has been causing him nothing but trouble. And we recognize that this pack is doing well as well, and decided to go for a forward beacon to try to grab an early tower debuff. Let's see if our opponent's Abyss is going to lock on to our fortress. Fortunately, with our underground crawler spell, we're able to distract this Abyss for quite a while, allowing this fortress to stay alive and take down our opponent's Vulcan in the process. And seems like the left side and right side both managed to find their mark and locked onto our opponent's Abyss, allowing us to once again take another round, even though our opponent's Abyss is erasing every single Fangs on the board. Going into round 8, it has to be a spell, because this can easily be the very last round for either one of us. Well, maybe not so much for us with 3000 HP left. However, we checked our opponent's board and decided to go for a orbital javelin on this clump of units because they are both under 70,000 HP. We had no interest in the units on the side here because they're level 2, and once our opponent grabs another defensive enhancement, they're going to surpass the 70,000 HP threshold. But you saw opponent decided to skip. I think it's because he is investing in so much money in upgrading the Abyss and getting the Abyss in the process. From here, we thought our opponent was going to go for the orbital javelin on this clump of units for sure, because of how closely clumped up they were. We decided to sell out of the corner fortress and try to create a second line of attack into our opponent's tower by grabbing another fortress and grabbing one more melting point to target this Abyss, even though we're javelining it. And we decided to go to make an attempt at attacking the right side tower, recognizing that there's barely any chaff in the front, and the Abyss is going to be busy targeting the backside unit in the process. By skipping the spell, our opponent utilized his extra supply for a double tech replicate and impact drill crawler, trying to overwhelm us with chaff units, essentially saying, hey, he doesn't care how fast and how strong our Fangs are. He's just going to overwhelm, like this back corner here. Look at this. So now there's so many crawlers coming in. Luckily, with our orbital javelin, we're able to weaken our opponent's Abyss and take down the Vulcan in the process. However, as you can see here, with no more chaff clear on the board, and our opponent having these replicating crawlers in the process, it seems like our tanky melting points, even with absorption module, are just going to be stuck shooting at the crawlers in the process, allowing our opponent's level 2 Abyss to clean up and reclaim another round. Round 9, At this point, we thought, shoot, that was a lot of crawlers. What am I gonna do? We can go for... Do we go for Rhino with a Whirlwind to try to chaff clear? Or would they just die too quickly to our opponent's Abyss? Do we go for Raiden to try to snipe out the air units? Or let's just go for something tried and true. Arclight supporting melting points. We decided to grab the level 5 Arclights, giving them range, recognizing that by having these levels, we're always going to be able to one-shot the crawlers, even if they have underground or even if they have a lot of levels. And we recognize that in the last round, the right side was breaking, where the problem was, where all the chaff units were coming from because of our opponent's crawlers and replicating ability. So we decided to concentrate our forces on the left side. Here, I also decided to go for the Mech Rage, recognizing that most of our Fangs have a good amount of levels. And I thought it would be a waste to not utilize their high level and high DPS for chaff clear. I don't know if this is a mistake or not. Let's find out. Let's see if the Mech Rage actually helps us in clearing chaff. Or would we have been better off to not click Mech Rage and just use the Arclights for the backline chaff clear? Let's see here. With multiple missiles to trying to take out our opponent's crawlers in the front line, it seems like Mech Rage is potentially helping, but I don't know, because our Fangs are just dying so quickly to the swarm missiles, now coming from 4 Abyss in the process. Luckily, with our backline Arclight, it's allowing our melting points to find the correct targets onto the Abyss. And you can see here, as our melting points find their target, they're actually able to survive quite a bit of shots from the swarm missile and the laser beam. However, it was not enough to survive the level 2 Abyss. Opponent now takes us down to 600 HP. Going into, for sure, the very last round of the game. You know what I'm gonna say. We see nuke late game, we take the nuke, and we respect the nuke. That is absolutely key. Even if the nuke doesn't kill the Abyss in one shot, it's going to help us with chaff clear. It's going to help us weaken all these units, allowing our melting points to clean up. And from here, because we respect the nuke, we decided to beacon our melting point back a little bit, recognizing that this level 2 boy here, even with the laser sight, did the least amount of damage because he was stuck in front, getting gunned down by the Abyss, while the corner created a crap ton of replicating crawlers in the process. So we need this guy to come back to buy time for our Arclight to chaff clear. And we decided to sell out of the fortress in the shallow flank finally, recognizing that it was just dying to one swipe by the Abyss. From here, respect the nuke, putting these shields fairly far back to one, help us prevent any damage from the swarm missile, and 2, obviously so they don't get popped too early, so they can be useful for the eventual nuke. However, you can see here, opponent decided to not go for the nuke, going for the skip again to level up his Abyss in the process. And you saw me putting down another melting point earlier and decided to undo the round and go for one more shield and a pack of crawler instead. That's because I recognize that we don't need more melting point if they cannot find the target and if they die too quickly. I would much rather have the crawlers to bait out the swarm missiles for the first round and have an extra shield just in case we get nuked. And then throw down these 2 missiles here for early clearing of chaff. And this is allowing us to break through the shield on the right side. Even though there's no more chaff left on the board, the nuke is going to help us significantly damage the rest of his army, allowing us to take down the Vulcan and take down the right side army fairly quickly. You can see it still takes a while after our unit lock on. And from that nuke, sets off a butterfly effect of tower debuff, allowing our backline arclights to chaff clear. Along with our fire, I forgot to mention, we dropped the oil on the very last round, recognizing that we just need to kill all the chaff here. Then our melting point are going to lock on. Oops, forgot to talk about it. Let's take a look again at this round 10 here. Hey, round 10. I think we ended up putting the oil right here. In hindsight, I should have probably even have put it like all the way here, because this part of the board is not able to be shielded by the energy shield. So there's no way for the oil to get blocked. And most of the crawlers were coming from like this very far end anyway. So let's see how this oil works out. I think it's going to help us quite a bit in the process. See, if I had put the oil a little more to the left, that would have been even better. But hey, it's doing its job, allowing our level 3 melter to stay alive, even getting taken down to like 10% HP. Very fortunate here. So that concludes our replay analysis for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time.